Timmy was a legend in his own right, not for cricket or studies, mind you, but for his truly spectacular ability to conjure excuses for uncompleted homework. From a sudden alien invasion causing his pen to vanish, to a rare nocturnal squirrel heist involving his geometry textbook, Timmy had a story for everything. His teachers, bless their patient souls, had heard them all. Yet Timmy believed he still had a few tricks up his sleeve, especially for his dreaded Tuesday maths assignment. This week, the sum total of his effort was exactly zero, much like the answers on his sheet. He paced his room, eyes darting from his untouched notebook to Rufus, his golden retriever, who lay sprawled like a fluffy, innocent rug, warmly. An idea, a truly magnificent, daring, and gravy-laced idea sparked in Timmy's mind. Rufus, he declared, his voice filled with a mischievous glee. Today, you're going to be an actor. Playful, Rufus merely thumped his tail, a soft, rhythmic thud against the wooden floor, completely oblivious to his impending role in Timmy's elaborate drama. The plan, in Timmy's youthful, convoluted mind, was simple. Frame Rufus for the missing homework. It was foolproof, he thought, a stroke of genius. He meticulously ripped his maths notebook into several jagged pieces. The crisp, tearing sound echoed in the quiet room, a prelude to his grand deception. Then, with the precision of a master chef, he dabbed each piece with leftover chicken gravy. The aroma, rich and savory, a tantalizing scent of roasted poultry, filled the air, a smell Rufus usually found irresistible, often leading to excited tail wags and hopeful nudges. Timmy then strategically scattered the gravy-soaked fragments across the sun-drenched garden path, a perfect crime scene. Or so he hoped. Now, Rufus, he instructed, clapping his hands together, his voice laced with an almost desperate encouragement. Go on, eat it. It's delicious. He even tried to guide Rufus's snout towards the delectable mess, wiggling a particularly juicy-looking piece in front of him. But Rufus, a dog of refined tastes and perhaps an uncanny sixth sense for mischief, simply sniffed at the papers. His wet nose twitched, his brow furrowed slightly, and he looked at Timmy with an expression that clearly said, "Are you serious, boss? This isn't even kibble, and it looks suspiciously like paper." Rufus, instead of eagerly devouring the evidence, picked up a particularly large gravy-smeared piece with an almost dignified air, as if he were carrying a prized possession. He then trotted back inside, tail wagging slowly, a proud look on his face, as if he'd just accomplished a great feat. Timmy's heart sank faster than a brick in a well, a cold dread washing over him. This was not part of the script, not at all. The next morning, school assembly. The hall buzzed with the usual murmur of hundreds of students, a symphony of whispers and shuffling feet. Principal Sharma, a formidable woman with an eagle eye that missed nothing and a voice that could silence a stadium, was in the middle of her weekly address about punctuality and discipline. The hall was pin drop silent, save for her echoing words. Suddenly, a familiar golden blur streaked down the aisle, a flash of happy fur and wagging tail. It was Rufus, and in his mouth, held with gentle pride, he carried Timmy's shredded, gravy-soaked maths homework, a beacon of soggy, incriminating evidence. He trotted right up to the stage, his tail wagging furiously, a joyful thumping sound against the polished floor, and with a soft thwack dropped the soggy mess precisely at Principal Sharma's feet. Timmy, hiding somewhere in the third row, wished the floor would swallow him whole, teleporting him to another dimension far away from this mortifying scene. His face was a shade of crimson, usually reserved for ripe tomatoes, burning hot with embarrassment. Principal Sharma, after a moment of stunned silence, her eyes wide with disbelief, picked up the incriminating evidence. She held up a piece, gravy dripping delicately onto her polished shoe. "Timothy!" she boomed, her voice cutting through the rising amusement like a sharp knife. "Is this yours? And might I ask, what exactly is this substance?" Timmy stumbled forward, his legs feeling like jelly, trying desperately to piece together an explanation that might sound even remotely plausible. "Ma'am, it's not what it looks like," he blurted, his voice cracking, a high-pitched squeak of panic. "Rufus, he was framed. It was the mailman, ma'am. He has a grudge against Gravy. A very old, very serious grudge. And then a rogue cat, a really sneaky one, came along. It was a ginger cat, ma'am. I swear. It stole the mailman's gravy, then blamed Rufus. It's a whole conspiracy, really, possibly involving extraterrestrial beings who needed my maths homework for their intergalactic calculations. They wanted to prevent my excellent scores." His excuses spiraled, each one more unbelievable than the last, building a tower of absurdity that threatened to collapse around him. The students, initially giggling, were now openly roaring with laughter, some clutching their sides. Even Principal Sharma, her lips pressed tightly together, couldn't entirely hide the flicker of amusement in her usually stern eyes. She took a deep, steadying breath. "Timmy," she said, a hint of a smile finally playing on her lips, a tiny crinkle at the corner of her eye. "I think your maths teacher would like a word, and perhaps a presentation of this creative piece of work, along with your theory on intergalactic maths thieves."
The assembly erupted once more, louder this time, as Timmy, head bowed, shuffled off the stage, following the principal like a condemned man.
In maths class, the atmosphere was thick with suppressed laughter. Timmy stood before his amused classmates and a rather weary-looking Mrs. Rao, who was struggling valiantly to maintain a professional demeanor. The shredded, dried-up pieces of his homework lay on his desk like archaeological relics, smelling faintly of chicken. "All right, Timmy," Mrs. Rao said, trying to keep a straight face, her voice a little strained. "Present your findings and perhaps explain the role of the mailman and the ginger cat." Timmy took a deep, shuddering breath. With each piece of paper, he started improvising a story, linking mathematical concepts to the bizarre narrative he had woven, his imagination working overtime. "This piece," he held up a corner of paper, its edges crinkled and brown, "represents the missing variable x, which, much like the mailman, vanished without a trace after his gravy vendetta." He picked up another, a larger, more prominent fragment. "And this, ma'am, is the hypotenuse of the triangle formed by Rufus, the rogue ginger cat, and the alien spacecraft that attempted to abduct my equations." He spoke with a newfound desperate creativity, making up theorems on the spot, explaining the gravitational pull of the gravy and the trajectory of the shredded paper as it was flung about by the extraterrestrial wind currents. He even outlined a complex equation involving cat to alien ratios. His hands gestured wildly, his voice rising and falling with dramatic flair, as if he were conducting a symphony of lies. The class, surprisingly, was enthralled. They had never paid so much attention during a maths lesson, hanging on to Timmy's every outrageous word. Even Mrs. Rao found herself nodding slowly, a small, genuine smile finally breaking through her attempt at sternness. Timmy, in his frantic attempt to save face and avoid detention, was inadvertently explaining maths concepts in a way that was both memorable and utterly ridiculous. He realized halfway through his alien invasion theory that he was working harder on this elaborate lie than he ever would have on the actual homework. The mental gymnastics required were exhausting. The bell rang, a merciful sound, ending the class and Timmy's impromptu maths presentation. Mrs. Rao, still chuckling softly, walked over to him, her eyes twinkling. "Timmy," she said, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "That was certainly unique, very imaginative. But all that energy, all that imagination, imagine if you put it into solving the actual problems. You might just be a maths genius after all, if you focus that incredible brain." Timmy looked at the gravy-stained fragments, then at Rufus, who was now snoozing peacefully in the corner of the classroom, having snuck in during the commotion, his reputation surprisingly intact, perhaps even enhanced by his dramatic appearance.
That day marked a turning point for Timmy. He still had his vivid imagination, as vibrant and colorful as ever, but he began to channel it differently into creative writing and actually solving complex problems. He understood that concocting grand excuses took far more effort than simply doing the work. The sheer absurdity of framing his innocent dog, the profound humiliation of the assembly, and the exhausting improvisation had taught him a valuable, albeit very public lesson. Honesty, he discovered, was a much simpler equation, and hard work, while not always thrilling, certainly beat a convoluted narrative involving mailmen, rogue ginger cats, and extraterrestrial beings. From that day on, Timmy's homework was completed on time, and Rufus was finally free from the burden of false accusations, enjoying his gravy on his actual kibble, untainted by paper. And sometimes, when he saw a particularly interesting math problem or an ordinary mailman, Timmy would still smile, remembering the day the homework almost ate the dog, and how much easier truth became, leading him to discover a genuine love for problem solving, albeit without the gravy.